And now for a session presented by the Red Sea Development Company. Please join us in welcoming the Red Sea Development Company Advisory Board members, Piers Schmidt and Sue Harmsworth, in conversation with Skift President Carolyn Kremins.
Hello, everyone. It's so great to be here in person. Oh my gosh, I waited a long time for this. And to everyone online, hope to see you soon. A warm welcome to Sue Piers. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you.
So, I don't know if this is on your radar or not, but there is a whole lot happening in Saudi Arabia. These are just some visuals that you start to see, but this conversation, we're going to be talking about this vision, a vision that came about in 2016. The Crown Prince came out with the Saudi Vision 2030, and that vision, it was to move beyond, to take the economy beyond oil and to build travel and tourism to be close to 10% or even more of the GDP, which is, I think, 4 times of what it is today. Right now, it's pretty much relegated to religious tourism. So one of the largest developments is the Red Sea Development Company. That vision is to be one of the biggest luxury and wellness destinations, and to be probably the biggest in the world, a sustainable and regenerative destination. So who better to talk with than both Sue and Piers, who actually sit on the advisory board. Love to hear more about the project, what makes it unique, and what do you hope to accomplish?
Shall I go first?
Go for it.
Okay. Well, I have to say, I'm 50 years in the industry, which some of you will know, and I have never seen a project like this ever. And when I was first invited to be on the advisory board, I couldn't visualize or scale the size of it. And just to put it into perspective, it's the size of Belgium, and it's about...
Wait, did you get that? It's the size of Belgium. You're building a country.
Yes, we are building a country. It's 700 kilometers, for those of you working kilometers, on the Red Sea. And until I flew over it, it is absolutely pristine land. The Red Sea is amazing. The coral, the flora and fauna is just beyond anything that you could believe, really. And then the thing that as you may know, some of you have been in the wellness and beauty and spa industry for most of my life. So sustainability was very, very close to my heart. And one of the things that really impressed me was the program. It's 30% net sustainable, which means that they're giving back. So, we all talk about carbon neutral, but this is 30% net sustainable. So by the time they're finished, the technology they're using and all those sorts of things, it will be completely self-sufficient, so it won't be on the national grid at all. But also I was hugely impressed by, for instance, I didn't know anything about coral regeneration. So wherever they're working, say on the marina or those sorts of things, they're taking the coral out into the Marine Institute and they're regenerating the coral, which is quite phenomenal. The other thing maybe to take into account is if you think of countries or areas of the world that have been developed over the last half a century, they've usually been overbuilt and destroyed. And the plan here is only to develop 1% of the Red Sea project. And then we have Amala as a separate project, which we'll talk about in a minute, and 5% there. So, it is going to remain unspoilt, really far apart. I was involved a little bit in talking to some of the operators, and their first question was, well, how can I sit alongside so-and-so? And then when they saw the site and they realized the distances in between, they were super impressed.
So, yeah, that's pretty amazing that you're keeping most of the land pristine and then just building on such a small percent.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the other thing that impressed me was the building process. So a lot of the building is being actually constructed off-site and then brought on-site so as to not interfere with the landscape or interfere with it as little as possible. Yeah. And there's a lot of islands as well, so multiple islands, and most of those are not going to be developed either. So, and for me, it's a fantastic project because it's infused with wellness.
Right.
But I can talk about that ad infinitum, as everybody knows, but I think we should let Piers.
Yeah.
No, I think the scale is truly impressive, and if you look at all the componentry and the thinking behind it, it's really unique. It's a one-off. But I think the what can overwhelm you when you think about the Red Sea project and Amala, but I think for me, what's even more impressive is the how. It's the how this team are going about development. We've seen massive greenfield projects in other parts of the Middle East, for example. One thinks of the reinvention of Dubai over the last 30 years. But I think the team at the Red Sea are really conscious of the opportunity in front of them and are thinking deeply about not just the project itself, but about the standards that it's going to set. And I think it's going to change the industry on a macro level. I think some of the techniques and some of the approaches that have been honed and learned through this project will become replicable, will become benchmarks that the rest of us will have to adhere to.
Yeah, that's
as
super
we go
cool.
forward.
Yeah, in fact, I heard your CEO speak, and he was talking about, I think one of the building sites was going to be where they just actually then discovered there are all the turtles population. So they actually went back to the drawing board and rethought about, how to plan in another location. Piers, with the Red Sea project, and I think in travel in general, right? Like, especially over the last 2 years when we saw less traffic, sustainability is on everyone's mind, but we also saw the world looked a lot better when, we flew less planes and had less people, treading on different parts of the world. And so you started to hear bubbling up this concept of regenerative tourism, right? So it's like one step beyond sustainability. So, and for those of you, I'm sure you know, but regenerative tourism is like about leaving the place better than when the way you found it. You have this opportunity now, and you also are claiming that you want to be about regenerative tourism. Tell me how it's going to look unique and how you're going to set the bar on regenerative tourism.
Yes, I think it's a new term. There have been some new terms bandied around the industry in the last few years. We've heard about transformational travel. I think Skift have published on that theme. And now, yes, regenerative tourism seems to sort of be a new buzzword. And I think there's an opportunity for us to define that through this project. I think we're all now familiar with the triple bottom line of sustainability: people, planet, profit. And I tend to think personally, and this isn't necessarily a corporate position from the Red Sea Company about regenerative tourism, in terms of a quadruple purpose. So I think there's more to it than just leaving the place better than we found it, although that is a core component of it. So the quadruple purpose to me is that the place must reinvigorate. It must revitalize, it must renew, but also reform. So if we take each of those in turn, the revigoration is about proactive protection. It's not just about maintaining and keeping the natural environment as it is. It's actually, as you heard Sue describe, growing new coral. I mean, this is one of the few places in the world where the coral is still alive, is still colorful. We're 3D printing coral and restoring it into the ocean. We're planting new seagrass and genuinely improving the place so that the development process is not depletive, but genuinely bringing stronger life to the environment. In terms of revitalization, I think it's about two things: new life and new livelihoods. So in terms of new life, we've got a 7,000 square kilometer no-take marine protection zone. So that means we'll be taking no fish. And there's something like 280 species of fish that have been found. We won't take any of those fish. So they'll actually be able to grow and multiply and create a stronger ecosystem. There's a phenomenal 1 million square meter nursery where eventually 25 million plants are being grown from seeds.
Right.
So this is literal, revitalization. And in terms of new livelihoods, we'll be employing probably up to 70,000 people directly,
Right.
and then countless more in terms of indirect.
That's where all the labor is, by the way, if you're looking for where they all are.
And then there's renewal, which of course is really Sue's core expertise. But I'd love to think that people will leave these destinations
Yeah.
feeling renewed in mind, body, and soul. And then the final piece is reform, because, as I mentioned earlier, I think these projects and others like them are genuine catalysts for doing things differently. We were there for an advisory board meeting in October, and I was talking with Horst Schulze, the founder of Ritz-Carlton, who's one of our colleagues on the board. And he was absolutely blown away by the coastal village, which is where the associates and the team are going to live.
Yeah.
I mean, you would always want to move in yourself as a guest. So the fact that John and the team are just taking such care to accommodate the people who are going to be working in the hotels, you've never seen anything like it before.
Yeah.
This is not dormitories. These are proper residences, apartments, villas for the management grade. So I think, Saudi has issues as a nation, we know, but I think tourism can be such an agent of change and improvement, and that's the reform we're going to see.
Yeah, amazing. So I want to just pick up quickly on the wellness. Amala is a very big part of the destination. And I just actually learned that Amala means hope in Arabic. And wellness is at the heart of this development. Can you just share really quickly, and I know it's hard for you to do this quickly. But,
I'll be as quick as I can.
Where are you taking wellness to the next level? Like, what's the future of wellness look like?
Well, this is the first opportunity, I think, to bring together every aspect of wellness. It's an overused word, and it's becoming more so. But even pre-pandemic, we were looking at healthy, long life rather than just dragging on. Prevention is huge. This is multi-generational as well. This is nothing to do with being a certain age. It's the young as well. So prevention, health, whatever issues you have. And this is a country that wellness is just infused throughout. And the brands that are coming in, which sadly I hoped we could announce some, but we can't yet. They're not quite signed. But it's a mixture of European clinics, US, more resorts, some from Asia, but they all bring different aspects. And for those of you who are really into wellness and wellness travel, it's a destination for any point of your life. And if you think about it, life is a journey, and we all have different issues at different times. And sometimes you need a week to really change your life. You might have a mental health issue or a physical issue or an illness. I mean, cancer is going to hit 1 in 2 people. So all these things we're going to have to deal with as a world. And Amala is going to be, I think, it's certainly being designed as a world-class destination where you can go as an individual, a couple, or a family and find that need. It may be a yoga retreat. It may be a really serious diagnostic clinical stay. It can be anything. You might be addressing sleep. You might just want to train for a marathon. I mean, it's such extremes that we all have, and we all have individual needs and individual journeys, and it's addressing that. And for me, and I've been traveling the world going to these places for the past 40, 50 years, and you go to one and you find a part of that.
Right.
Whether it's in the US or Asia, you might go somewhere that's very spiritual one year, and then another year you need something very clinical. Or at the same time, you might just want to go to a 5-star resort that has great fitness. So it's all going to be there, and it's going to be able to build a community that you want to go back to time and time again, I think.
Yeah. And Piers, you're a renowned luxury expert. I want to be a luxury expert. I really do. No, so luxury is also a very core component of the destination. What is next-gen luxury look like? Because there's a lot of luxury in travel. We have like less than a minute, so.
Yeah. Big question, short amount of time.
Big question for sure.
I think, yes, the nature of luxury is changing, but it's changing because we are changing. The luxury consumer is changing, and I think the pandemic has accelerated a change that was already in progress. So I think we're seeking to consume more conscientiously. And I think it's partly led by the supply side. So you're seeing amazing projects like this, almost educating us in how to consume and how to travel differently. But it's also from the demand side. So we as consumers are thinking about our footprint. We're thinking about the role of the communities that the tourism product is developed within. And I think we'll become more and more discerning in our consumption of experiences. We've become discerning in our consumption of products, but we're now applying that discernment to experiences too.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I do want to thank you for joining us. This is a really ambitious vision, and I think it's, you know, when you think about what we do at Skift, we're all about the future of travel. This really does embody the future of building a country from the ground up, so we're definitely going to be watching. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.